We're on.
Hello.
Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to OSD Go Live. This is episode 10, and I am here with a very special guest. This is Principal Mitchell, the principal of Castleton High School.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to read books. What a great way to spend an afternoon.
Yeah, and it's almost summer, so we're excited. This is going to be one of the few right before you get to go and get to read a whole bunch of books this summer as well. So Mr. Mitchell has two great selections for you, and I think without further ado, we should turn it right on over because I think you should sit back, relax, and enjoy the books. I'll be on the sidebar. Say hello.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's read. I'm so excited to be joining you live, and I'm so happy to share with you two wonderful books. I hope you are comfortable wherever you are. I hope you're ready to hear some great stories, and I'm going to kick it off with an excellent book called Of Me. This is probably will connect to a lot of you as we wrap up our school year. We have a lot going on, and you might kind of feel what this character is feeling as we read. So we'll start right away. So Few of Me by Peter H. Reynolds. Leo was a busy lad. No matter how hard he worked, there was always more to do. Making a list would help. Leo's list of things to do grew and grew. So few of me and so much to do. If only there were two of me. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Leo opened the door and blinked and rubbed his eyes. It was another him. The new Leo grabbed the list and said, "Two of us will get it done." He was helpful, but found even more to do. A third Leo joined the two. How about four? Four makes a fantastic team, but maybe a fifth would be even better. Still not enough. A sixth came in to help organize the lot. After meeting for hours, they decided they needed a seventh. With 7 Leos, there was 7 times as much work. Leo sighed and said, "We'll need 8. Catch our breath." The 8 Leos worked furiously. Maybe 9 Leos would get it done? No. Add one more to make 10, each one busier than the next. There's a lot going on there. Leo, 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 and Leo paused to review their list. "Back to work," 9 Leos shouted. No time to stop, no time to rest. But Leo himself was exhausted. He slipped away to take a nap. Leo awoke to 9 other Leos staring at him. "What were you doing?" they demanded. "I was dreaming," Leo said softly. "Dreaming was not on the list," they roared. Leo smiled, still savoring his dream. Appeared one by one. Wondered, what if I did less, but did my best? Then, 1 Leo is all I need, just me, with time to dream. The end. Thank you. That was my first book called So Few of Me by Peter H. Reynolds. I highly recommend you find a copy and take some more time to look at the illustrations. Oh man, I sometimes feel that way. So much to do. I want more of me, but you know, if I just take my time, concentrate, I do my best. Our next book, Enemy Pie. Some of you might know this one already. It's definitely a favorite of mine by Derek Munson. And this is a book, you know, as we kind of get along and get to know people, sometimes we think we don't like them, maybe one way or the other. We don't think we're friends, but I think if you read this book and kind of listen to what's going on here, you might change your mind. Enemy Pie by Derek Munson. One more picture. Enemy Pie. This is a summertime book, too. Even better. We're almost ready for summer. It should have been a perfect summer. My dad helped me build a treehouse in our backyard. My sister was at camp for 3 whole weeks. And I was on the best baseball team in town. It should have been a perfect summer, but it wasn't. It was all good until Jeremy Ross moved into the neighborhood, right next door to my best friend, Stanley. I did not like Jeremy Ross. He laughed at me when he struck me out in a baseball game. He had a party on his trampoline, and I wasn't even invited. But my best friend, Stanley, was. Jeremy Ross was the one and only person on my enemy list. I never even had an enemy list until he moved into the neighborhood. But as soon as he came along, I needed one. I hung it up on my treehouse where Jeremy Ross was not allowed to go. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too. A way to get rid of them. I asked him to tell me how. Tell you how? I'll show you how, he said. He pulled a really old recipe book off the kitchen shelf. Inside, there was a worn-out scrap of paper with faded writing. Dad held it up and squinted at it. Enemy pie, he said, satisfied. You may be wondering what exactly is in enemy pie. I was wondering too. But Dad said the recipe was so secret, he couldn't even tell me. I decided it must be magic. I begged him to tell me something, anything. I will tell you this, he said. Enemy pie is the fastest known way to get rid of enemies. Now, of course, this got my mind working. What kind of things, disgusting things, would I put into a pie for my enemy? I brought Dad some weeds from the garden, but he just shook his head. I brought him earthworms and rocks, but he didn't think he'd need those. I gave him the gum I'd been chewing on all morning. He gave it right back to me. I went out to play alone. I shot baskets until the ball got stuck on the roof. I threw a boomerang that never came back to me. And all the while, I listened to the sounds of my dad chopping and stirring and blending the ingredients of enemy pie. This could be a great summer after all. Enemy pie was going to be awful. I tried to imagine how horrible it must smell, or worse yet, what it would look like. But when I was in the backyard looking for ladybugs, I smelled something really, really, really good. And as far as I could tell, it was coming from our kitchen. I was a bit confused. I went in to ask Dad what was wrong. Enemy pie shouldn't smell this good. But Dad was smart. If enemy pie smelled bad, your enemy would never eat it, he said. I could tell he'd made enemy pie before. The buzzer rang and Dad put on the oven mitts and pulled the pie out of the oven. It looked like plain old pie. It looked good enough to eat on. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to enemies? Maybe it made their hair fall out? Or their breath stinky? Maybe it made bullies cry. I asked Dad, but he was no help. He wouldn't tell me a thing. But while the pie cooled, he filled me in on my job. He talked quietly. There is one part of enemy pie that I can't do. In order for it to work, you need to spend a day with your enemy. Even worse, you have to be nice to him. It's not easy, but that's the only way that enemy pie can work. Are you sure you want to go through with this? It sounded horrible. It was scary, but it was worth a try. All I had to do was spend one day with Jeremy Ross. Then he'd be out of my hair for the rest of my life. I rode my bike to his house and knocked on the door. When Jeremy opened the door, he seemed surprised. He stood on the other side of the screen door and looked at me, waiting for me to say something. I was nervous. "Can you play?" I asked. He looked confused. "I'll go ask my mom," he said, with his shoes in his hand. His mom walked around the corner to say hello. "You boys stay out of trouble," she said, smiling. We rode bikes for a while and played on the trampoline. Then we made some water balloons and threw them at the neighbor girls, but we missed. Jeremy's mom made us lunch. After lunch, we went over to my house. It was strange, but I was kind of having fun with my enemy. He almost seemed nice. But of course, I couldn't tell Dad since he had worked so hard to make this enemy pie. Jeremy Ross liked my basketball hoop. He said he wished he had a basketball hoop, but they didn't have room for one. I let him win a game, just to be nice. Jeremy Ross knew how to throw a boomerang. He threw it and it came right back to him. I threw it and it went over my house and into the backyard. When we climbed over the fence to find it, the first thing Jeremy noticed was my treehouse. My treehouse was my treehouse. I was the boss. If my sister wanted in, I didn't have to let her in. If my dad wanted in, I didn't have to let him. And if Jeremy wanted in, "Can we go in it?" he asked. I knew he was going to ask me that, but he was the top person, the only person on my enemy list. And enemies aren't allowed in my treehouse. But he did teach me to throw a boomerang. He'd have me over for lunch, and he did let me play on his trampoline. He wasn't being a very good enemy. But hold on. I climbed up ahead of him and tore the enemy list off the wall. I had a checkerboard and some cards in the treehouse, and we played games until my dad called us down for dinner. We pretended we didn't hear him, and when he came out to get us, we tried to hide from him, but somehow he found us. Dad made us macaroni and cheese for dinner, my favorite. It was Jeremy's favorite too. Maybe Jeremy Ross wasn't so bad after all. I was beginning to think that maybe we should just forget about enemy pie. But sure enough, after dinner, Dad brought out the pie. As he cut the pie into 8 thick slices. "Dad," I said, "it sure is nice having a new friend in the neighborhood." I was trying to get his attention and trying to tell him that Jeremy Ross was no longer my enemy. But Dad only smiled and nodded. I think he thought I was just pretending. Dad dished up 3 plates side by side with big pieces of pie and giant scoops of ice cream. Me and one to Jeremy. Wow, Jeremy said, looking at the pie. My dad never makes pie like this. It was at this point that I panicked. I didn't want Jeremy to eat enemy pie. He was my friend. I couldn't let him eat it. Jeremy, don't eat it. It's bad pie. I think it's poisonous or something. Jeremy's fork stopped before reaching his mouth. He crumpled his eyebrows and looked at me funny. I had saved his life. I was a hero. If it's so bad, Jeremy asked, your dad already eaten half of it? I turned to look at my dad. Sure enough, he was eating enemy pie. He mumbled through a mouthful, and that was all he said. I sat there watching them eat enemy pie for a few seconds. Dad was laughing, Jeremy was happily eating, and neither of them was losing any hair. It seemed safe enough, so I took a tiny taste. Enemy pie was delicious. After dessert, Jeremy rode his bike home, but not before inviting me over to play on his trampoline in the morning. He said he'd teach me how to flip. I still don't know how to make it. I still wonder if enemies really do hate it, or if their hair falls out, or their breath turns bad. But I don't know if I'll ever get an answer, because I just lost my best enemy. The end.
That was great, Mr. Mitchell.
Well, thank you for letting me come and read today. This was great. And we're going to do some shout outs now, yeah? So thanks to all the elementary classes watching. A few shout outs to our regular viewers. Thank you so much. And hey, Leo's in this book too. Great.
That's right.
Lucy and Jackson, nice to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. And Zoe N, always a pleasure to have you listening and watching on YouTube here. Hi to Sebastian, Simon, and Amelia. I forgot an important shout out to my little guy at home, Declan. Thank you for watching, Declan. And to my lovely daughter, Anna. I hope you get to watch later. Thank you for watching, too. That about wraps it up, right?
It does.
All right. Happy summer.
Happy summer, everyone. Don't forget to anchor yourself to a great book and
OSD Go Read.
Bye.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mr. Mitchell. You rock.